Hey yo, Ken Taylor here. Uh, just want to dedicate this video to my pal, coworker slash token atheist friend Logan Labe. Logan does tons of videos on YouTube, and he watching some of his videos and just some of the conversations we've had has kind of inspired what I'm going to talk about right now. Um, so just wanted to give him a shout out. He does his videos under the name. If you want to look him up, he's got some really good thought-provoking stuff. His YouTube channel name is Ronazarek, Roenazarek. I don't know if it's just some word he made up or what it is, but definitely look him up. Cool stuff. I've been really disturbed by the simple fact lately that um, if there's any truth in the Gospels, and by the way, for those that might watch this that don't know me and or Logan, I'm a Christian. Logan's an atheist. We often talk about religion. Um, so if there's any truth in the Gospels and the message of Christ, which I would believe that there is, then it's disturbing that the overwhelming majority of people who profess the Christian religion have got some of the most essential elements all wrong. Um, the foremost example of this, in my mind, just to give you one example, is the popularly embraced notion that the primary goal of the Christian life is to get to heaven by believing in Jesus. There are plenty of Christians, including myself, who would say that this notion is off base, that it's not taught in Scripture, and that it's counterproductive to even living out the teachings of Christ. However, that statement, as I stated it, the vast majority of Christians would agree with it. I believe, based on my experiences with um, most Christians. So it's refreshing to see people like Rob Bell or N.T. Wright and many others writing accessible books that attempt to deconstruct many of the assumptions like that have gotten tagged on to Jesus and the gospel over the centuries. But nonetheless, it's terribly disconcerting to think about how precious few of those people who need to hear these things are reading these sorts of books or hearing these things in any form. Many of these Christians have inherited from their families and from their churches a version of the faith that discourages even questioning any of these sorts of things and confuses their own peculiar ways of interpreting Christ with Christ himself. And in the minds of such Christians, everything is a slippery slope. Um, every slope is perpetually and dangerously slippery. And we're, of course, at the top of the slope in their minds. They're at the top, and every step away from the top is obviously a step towards, in their minds, atheism, immorality, and hell. What's even sadder to me, though, is that this type of Christianity is the one that everyone associates with Christ, non-Christians included. Gandhi famously made the statement, "I like your Christ, but not your Christians." Gandhi and plenty of others who have studied the Gospels have noted the somewhat glaring disparity between what Jesus taught and the way Christians actually live. And not just in a kind of way where we all fail to live up to the ideals that we set for ourselves, but in a more serious sense, the sense of being terribly misguided or just dead wrong about some really core, essential things. Um, and I don't think I've got it all figured out. Like I'm some super Christian who's getting it right while the vast majority are getting it wrong. I don't want to come off as being elitist. Um, and I know plenty of people who I believe certain things that they believe. They believe out of ignorance or just misunderstanding. But even if I disagree with them, I still admire them for the sincerity of their faith and what they've done with what they do believe. Um, Many of them live great lives, generous lives, charitable and loving people. Um, but it's obvious to me that there's an abundance of people not like that around. There's an abundance of ignorance, and worse than the ignorance are the multitudinous Christians who don't even seem to be able to draw a line in their minds between how they have interpreted Christ and Christ himself. The possibility that these two things could be different doesn't even seem to occur to some Christians. So it's unfortunate that the most popular versions of Christianity, these most popular versions that I'm talking about, are the ones that come under attack by non-Christians, of course. And it's these popular versions of Christianity that are defended by the majority of Christians against those attacks. And the real Christ kind of takes a back seat and just sits in the background in these discussions and debates. I have an analogy that may or may not be a ripoff of Plato's allegory of the cave. Not sure. It probably is, but just give it an ear. Imagine a song that you really enjoy, and not just some catchy tune that you happen to like right now that's on the radio a lot, but like one of your all-time favorite songs, just something every time you hear it, you just marvel at how beautiful of the song it is. And now imagine a hypothetical scenario in which you've never actually heard the original recording, but all your life you've had this cell phone. And from the time you're a little kid, imagine that little kid having a cell phone. I know that's becoming more popular. And its ringtone on the ringtone on the cell phone only has one ringtone, and you have to use it. And it's like the MIDI file, kind of electronic, old school cell phone ringtone version of this song. And you've heard this song, at least this version of the song, at least once a day, every day for your entire life. It would be probably safe to say that by the time you're in your 20s, you would despise that song. And even if one day you somehow heard the real thing, you might have trouble enjoying it because you've hated it for so long. I used to defend my religion, but I don't really do that anymore. I mainly just try to convey why I find a particular song to be so beautiful. Carrying on the analogy, of course. When I became a Christian, I was not compelled by a set of propositions. I was compelled by a person. I was compelled by Christ. I was able to believe in the truth of Christ, or at least consider the truth of it, because first I saw the beauty of it. If someone could provide to me an alternative hypothesis for why I might find Jesus so compelling, I would be interested to hear it. Not that that in and of itself is sufficient evidence, but it'd be interesting to hear why else I might find Jesus so beautiful. Christ was not forced upon me as a child. I didn't go to church. My family didn't go to church. Jesus was rarely even mentioned in the home that I grew up in. I was ignorant about pretty much everything regarding Christianity. I wasn't guilted into thinking I'd go to hell if I didn't believe. And even if someone would have attempted to guilt me into that, that would have much more likely turned me away from Christ than drawn me towards him. Some people talk about their experience with Christ as though they found a missing piece to the life puzzle. And I felt more so that I found the picture on the box. And ever since, I've been slowly able to start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And if Christ is not real, I have no other way of explaining my experiences. I know that may sound really subjective, and I know a lot of people would say, well, a lot of people feel the same way in their religion and their God. A Muslim might feel the same way about the Quran and Allah and Muhammad. And some people may even feel the same way about having lost their religion. That once they stopped believing in God, then everything started to come together for them. Life started to make a lot more sense. And in all sincerity, I say good for them. I really do think that's great. I'm glad that you have that song that you love and I'm interested to listen to that song as well. But it just so happens that there's this one that I find to be more sonorous than anything else that I've heard. And my hope is simply that I can convey its beauty to others, and not necessarily defend the song as a set of propositions. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.